need the permission to record from you.
Okay. Allow record. There you go.
Super. Thank you.
Okie doke. So anyway, welcome to the second class of cut paper sculpture. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the first class and see if anybody had any questions about what we had done with that. We had worked on our little cut paper feathers.
Oh, that looks so cool.
And yeah, it was fun. And if you go back and look at the first, you can look at the first recording, and there's a step-by-step how to do it.
Oh, sweet.
But Carrie, did you finish yours? You'll have to unmute yourself.
I did. Yes, I did, and I can go get it if you would like me to.
I'd love to see it. I was hoping to get to see how it turned out. If it's not, we can wait for you.
Okay, hold on one second.
Okay. I did notice that that my mine is freezing with me making funny faces too. So we'll be able to go back and see what the slow internet from the boondocks looks like. All right, let's see how it turned out.
Not all of my paper on the bottom is glued down. So I can hold it out here maybe, or bring it in.
Okay, and then just hold it still.
Okay.
Is that orange painted on, or is that like coming through? Because it looks orange and white to me. It does. It looks like a band of orange.
Probably coming through.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you in the. I'm gonna spotlight your video a second here so that that way we can see it. That way we can talk about it while we see it, because otherwise whoever talks it becomes the thing. That looks really good.
That looks great.
Excellent.
Well,
so what did you end up using for your lightweight paper?
I used a little bit of the rice paper, and then I realized I wanted something a little bit more like fibery.
Mm-hmm.
So I used paper towel.
Perfect.
a little paper towel. Other fiber.
Particularly the Viva paper towels look really nice for that, right?
Yeah,
they're right for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much for showing what you got done there. And if you besides the recording of the first class, there's also my YouTube videos that show how to do the not only the white feathers like what we did on Tuesday, but also show how to do embellishments to make them more, you know, everything from just drawing on them like that, or this actually I used a rubber stamp on that one. So you can do all kinds of things on that, and there is the second installment of that YouTube video that's on my channel tells about that. But there's also things to do with the feathers, which I was going to share my screen. It's a 3.5 minute video or something like that, under 4 minute video. I thought I'd share my screen and you can see some of the things that you can do with a cut paper feather. It's sort of like, now that you have it, what do you do with it? Okay. And this is just some ideas that I kind of came up with, but there's a million of them. You could think of your own ideas too. But I'm going to go ahead and share that with you. This time I'm going to remember to put the volume on. Welcome back to the art studio. I've got episode number 49 for you today, which is the third installment of the three-part series about cut paper feathers. This is a do-it-yourself project, and so today I've got some ideas for how you can display your cut paper feather. Well, besides the basic feathering your cap, I've come up with some other ideas for you. This paper feather didn't have a whole lot of shape, so I was able to use a regular frame. You get more shadow and depth when you use a shadow box frame like this one. I sometimes use these front-loading frames that you can get at Michael's. You can actually just pin into them if you like. I'm adding some rectangles of colored paper to give it a little bit more interest and fill the space better.
The sound quality's sketchy.
All set.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's unstable.
For this frame, I'm going to actually be putting two feathers in here, and I'm going to glue them in place.
It's better.
Little spacers,
Maybe.
I turned up the volume. I don't know if that
This
makes a
will give them
difference.
a little bit more
Maybe.
dimension.
That's
But
weird.
make sure to just put it on one side so you can still kind of bend the edges and give it the shape that you want it to have. Some neutral textured paper behind the feathers will give it a more natural look. This shadow box loads from the back, and like the frame before it, is just an inch deep.
That's cool.
Framing isn't your only option.
That was
Tall
my
glass
favorite way.
vase or an antique pitcher can make a beautiful display. You might want to save a few of your feathers to add to your holiday tree next December. Have you ever heard of rose putty? This stuff is awesome. You can use it to stick your feathers on the woodwork, or you can stick it on wallpaper, it won't hurt it, or you can stick it on a glass window pane. You can toss a few feathers in a glass bowl, or you can add them to your craft project, or you can take a plate with some seashells on it, or perhaps some rocks. All great displays for your cut paper feathers. Maybe mail one off to a friend, or attach it to the front of a homemade greeting card. This one makes a
Oh,
nice
that's
part of
cool.
my travel guides.
Ooh, look at that one.
Feathers can be affected by humidity.
Oh, well, they used to meet the first Tuesday
It's amazing.
of every.
This is a mobile that's actually designed for handling photographs. I thought it
Oh,
looks
that's
pretty
nice.
good. What do you think?
I think that was everybody's favorite.
I had a lot of fun coming up with
All right,
different
so I'm
ideas
gonna-
for you to display your cut
I'll
paper
spare you
feathers.
the rest of
I
that.
hope that you will try it yourself
I
and
think
come
I
up with some
will.
new ideas. And if
Except
you do,
unfortunately,
please
it's
let
still
me know.
running.
Send me a comment, send me a picture.
I love technology.
Yes, exactly. Ah,
I'd love to see
now,
it.
now you be quiet.
I'm Wendy Bale, a visual
Go
artist.
away. There. Okay. Once you get me started, you can't make me shut up, apparently. So, okay, so anyway, that's just some ideas of what you can do with the feathers. I still have the glass jar with them in it, and I think that was probably one of my favorite ways to do it. But I do think you have to remember that they are paper, so they are affected by humidity. So if you're gonna make your feathers and you want them to last, you probably should put them under glass in somewhere, or put them in a jar with a lid on it or something. But one of the advantages to doing paper feathers is that, as most of you probably know, it is not legal to have songbird feathers, and you can have game bird feathers, but you do want
I did
to.
not know
We've
that.
got somebody waiting to come in. So I think, okay. I said admit, but nobody came in, so I hope they didn't wait too long. But anyway, it is illegal to own the feathers. You can't, if you see them in the wild, you're not supposed to pick them up and keep them. So this way we can replicate them in paper and have them be, sometimes I do little tiny feathers as well. I mean, they don't have to be large. It's easier to show them when you're teaching it. It's easier to show, I use a goose feather typically, but if you are doing a feather that if you want to do a feather that looks like a specific species, if you go to the Feather Atlas, which is a website that's a government website that has hundreds and hundreds of different feathers, and they show them all to scale so that you can see how big they are and the coloration. So I absolutely love the Feather Atlas. That's my favorite resource for that. So I highly recommend that. So it is, I wanted to start the Snowy Owl project. That's the main project that we're going to be doing, this guy here. And before we actually get going on cutting and cutting out our patterns and things, I wanted to talk a little bit about the setup as far as what you have around you. There's only 14 or 15 pieces to this, so it's not an unmanageable thing to deal with all of the different parts. But I do find that it is helpful to have something. I use this cheap little cookie sheet thing as one of the ways of sort of keeping track of the parts. Also having maybe a small, it's kind of hard to see because it's black, but it's just a little tray. I use, this I think is a cheese tray. You can use meat trays or things that come from the deli or from the vegetable section. It's just handy to have some things to keep the parts kind of organized. This is a larger tray that I have set up with the original printouts of the pattern, because in order to kind of keep track of which pattern piece is what, it's helpful to have two printouts of it, one that you're going to cut up and one that you don't, so that you can sort of keep track of where they are. Because also what happens with me is sometimes I can't tell if it's right side up or upside down or how I intended for it to go. So that's just a helpful hint, particularly if you go on to do this and you do something that has more complicated, more parts to it. It's just helpful to have a system to organize. Another way to do it would be to just put your parts into a plastic bag so that they stay a little bit organized, and you don't lose track of them. I can't tell you how many times I've made an eyeball or something of a small creature and then tinged it off onto the floor and been scrambling around it. My studio has got wide plank flooring with big gaps in it, and half the time it falls into those gaps, and I either can't find it or have to remake it because it's no longer accessible. But I'm going to switch my screen over to my my table camera so that you can see what I'm talking about here. I'm going to go through the process. Those 10 steps that I have on that PDF that I sent to you has got sort of the 10 steps of how to put together a piece from scratch. And I want you not only to know how to do this Snowy Owl, but I would love it if you knew how to make your own piece from scratch. So I'm going to give you a little bit more detail and more background about how to do that. So this is the original sketch that I did. It is a pencil sketch. And one of the things that I think I mentioned on Tuesday that I want to reiterate is that working with a pencil sketch is great to begin with, but you do want to either use an ink pen or use a printout from a from a printer or a scanner afterwards, because you don't want to have the graphite get on your paper. So I did this drawing from kind of a combination of things. I had a bunch of owl photographs that I had taken, but the owl that I had, and you know, I'm gonna do a quick screen share right now and show you this owl, because these were some of the owls that I had photographed, and I was looking through some of the photos that I had to try to get an idea what would be a good subject, you know, for this. But you can see this is the owl I wanted to use, this guy right here, because I knew I had these photos. But he was, or I should say she, because this is actually a female. So you can see that she's a female snowy owl. So she's got these brown feathers, but she's also kind of a mad owl. She's not in a most happy state. And this is an owl that I did. This one is a cut paper piece that I did that was a little bit just supposed to be fierce. But I kind of wanted the owl that we were going to be doing to be a little bit calmer, like it was enjoying life and wasn't quite as intense. So, but you can see from this, owls have a lot of different expressions. You know, the barn owl here has got a very different shaped face. And this is the owl that I did with the brown paper, which is the screech owl. And then this is a barred owl. So these have all got very different expressions. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that, because when I was doing this, I looked at some other birds online and kind of came up with something that I thought would look, ultimately, you can see what he ends up looking like is a little different than the sketch. But I guarantee you every one of these that we do, even the one that I do, is going to look different, because just however you do the eyes or the paper, it'll have a different expression no matter what, even if we tried. But I think the funny thing about snowy owls is they have kind of a Godzilla eye. You know, it's got that kind of square look to it. And I think that that square look is sort of, to me, kind of indicative of that type of bird. And it also gives them kind of a funny little sideways expression. So that's what I went for here. Now, when we get to it and it's yours, if you want yours to have more sort of stereotypical owly eyes and have them more round, that's up to you, because this is your project and you can make it any way you like. We don't have any rules here. So to go through, so that was the research that I did. And then I did this I did this original sketch of what I kind of wanted the bird to look like. And then I got out some tracing paper. So that's just simple, plain old tracing paper. And this actually, if you have some of this around, this might work for the lightweight parts of your feather too, besides tissue paper or paper towels. Just a thought, if you have it. But after I got that sketch done, I went over the original sketch with a piece of tracing paper and a fairly thick marker. And while I was doing this, I was just thinking about the shapes that I wanted to have my individual pieces of paper be. So I know I want an outside piece that's kind of hold it all together. And then I know I want a piece for the head, and I want a piece for the breast, and I want a couple of different pieces for this wing over here. And then a piece that's gonna cut, snowy owls have really fluffy feet, and which keeps them warm in the Arctic. So I'm just gonna put a piece of fluffy paper there to indicate his feet. So you can see how those translated. I can get it there so they both show. You can see how that translated to the bird. Okay, so once you've got the basic outline done, then you take tracing paper and you come up with those individual layers that you're going to need. So this was the first layer outline, and a lot of times I'll write on there what it is, and that it has to be what paper color I'm imagining it's going to be. So in this case, I just wrote white paper. Most of this is white, but not all of it. And then because I'm conserving the materials, the tracing paper, I'm also putting other pieces on here on this same page, because when I put it in the copy machine to make my pattern, I don't want to have to do each piece on a separate piece of paper. So then here's the whole body, and then I had this eyeball, the eye area, which I did this particular way. It looks a little goofy, but I did it this way so that we wouldn't have to use knives, because I really wanted to be able to do this with just scissors. So there's a couple, I'll show you 2 different ways to do the eyes, and we're gonna do that kind of first thing because it's probably the most complicated part. But and then here's, you can see the body and then the wings, and in separate pieces, so that you end up with these individual pieces, which is what you have in your packet there. And then I knew I wanted to have some black behind there to come out for his pupils. So, and I also wanted some black for the beak. And so I put that black in there, and then we wanted some talons down here to kind of peek out. And you're going to notice that I'm really trying hard not to do little tiny pieces that are going to be easily lost. For instance, with like if you were doing an insect or something, as a good example, you would do your insect legs and then have the body part sit on top of it. Or like when I did the turtle that I showed you on Tuesday, the turtle's body is there all in one piece, and then the shell sits on top of it, rather than having individual pieces that glue into it. Because the fewer parts that you have that need to be glued separately, the better structure you're going to have for the piece in the end. So this is the so that's okay. I already showed you that. And then this is the part that's going to be behind. So to that end, you've got these yellow, this is the yellow paper. So this is the yellow part of the bird's eyes, but I've got this piece of paper going across here that is going to hold that together, so that you don't have to worry about having the parts flip out of there, or having it difficult to get them in position. So the fluffy parts of this bird are going to be, I want to use our fluffier paper, which in my case, I like using this type of paper as one option for that. I also use sometimes some very long fibered papers for this. If you can get a hold of that, this works great for this kind of thing. But so for the fluffy parts of our bird, we're going to have around the eyes will be fluffy. We're going to have the breast part of it, and we're going to have on his feet, like I was saying. So that will give you some basic shapes, but a lot of times I'm going to do more than just this. I'm going to maybe cut them out or tear them out several times and do layers, because it's translucent and it gives you a fluffier quality. And that's what will make it look more feathery and bird-like. On these, I gave you dotted lines on there. You can cut your pattern out with scissors is fine, but you might want to just keep in mind that tearing when it comes to the actual paper is going to give you a nicer edge than cutting. Okay, so that is sort of the setup for getting the pattern done. You've got it in your tracing paper, and then you go to your copy machine and you make your copies, and then you'll end up with the pages that you're going to actually cut out and use for your pattern. Then after we've cut out the pattern pieces, we're going to trace them onto some good paper, and we're going to determine which papers we're going to use, whether it's the white or the yellow or the black. Or if you really don't want to do a snowy owl and you want to turn this into a barred owl or something, you can use natural colored papers, brown papers. You could do a purple owl if you wanted. It doesn't matter. But the main idea is just understanding how to create the separate parts and get them to look like the bird that you want it to be. So then after we get them cut out, we're going to work on that today, and then on the next day that we are together, next week on Tuesday, we'll do the shaping and we'll start adding some details, and then we'll have a chance to get it glued up. So that'll be next week's project. So mostly what we want to get done today is just getting all the parts cut out, and then I want to get that eye section done, because I think that's probably the most will require a little bit of careful, quiet, easy work. Okay, so before I go any further with that, does anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask if you have any questions. Does everybody have all the pieces they need and all the parts they need, and everybody understanding what's going on so far? All right, I'm getting head nods, so that's what I want. All right, so I'm going to switch back to the other camera, and we'll start cutting out. So if you take your overall piece, I'm gonna set it kind of off camera up here, because keep it out of my way. But just so you know, it's there, and the idea of that is to put that up there and have it set so that you can kind of keep track of what parts you're doing. And we're gonna do a cutout of this first one. I actually think it's maybe a little good to leave this tail on the bottom and not cut across there. But if you want to cut across there, that's fine. But it's kind of nice to have a little extra down there. But this doesn't have to be particularly perfect, because just like when we cut out the feather, we're going to do a lot of manipulating of the paper anyway. So. Sorry about that. I have it on Do Not Disturb. I was surprised it came through. All right, so first my pages are in a crazy order here. So what I like to do is when I cut them out, I like to have another, I'm a little crowded here because I made myself be in a small space so that I could be within the camera's view. But when I have my pages here, if I had more space, what I would do is I would lay these all out on a table and then just put my piece with it. And this is particularly important when you have your actual pieces. I mean, these are just the pattern pieces, but when you're actually working with them, it's just easier to keep track of them like that. And it certainly doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just get the basic shape in there and you're going to be putting so many details in there later. I think I've cut this all out about 3 times, but I figured I should cut out along with you to get an idea how long it's going to take. So when you get to the eye disc page, which is part number 6, on that one, just cut out the rectangular part. Don't cut out the sunglasses looking shape. You just want to cut out the rectangular part because that's the part I want to show you how to make those eyes. And I included the instructions on that part because, like I said, it was a little bit more complicated than I wanted. I probably made it more complicated than it needed to be, but and at this point, if you guys want to just cut out the white parts, and we can go back and cut out the yellow, black, and the fluffy parts later, or let me know how far you've gotten on this. Are you caught up to me, or? Okay, Carrie says yes. Mavis is cutting, and I'm not sure what that sign meant, Cecilia.
It meant I was on the 3rd layer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finishing the 3rd layer right now.
Okay, perfect.
Do we cut these out at this point?
If you want to, sure. I would say, well, that'd be great. Go ahead and cut them out. Keep them separate. They're those little ones. So if you have a little tray or something to stick them into, or make sure they don't fling around, that's probably a good idea. And my pattern, particularly on number 10, is a little bit loose, let's say. But once we get to tweaking it with tweezers and embossing on it, debossing on it, we'll make it, we'll pinch it up and make it actually look like talons. Right now it kind of looks like an anteater.
And I think what we'll do is actually cut out that eye part, the eye discs first, in with our good paper. So make sure you have your good white paper there with you somewhere handy. It's fun to watch the paper flying. I'm seeing paper flying everywhere. That's right. I like working in my studio better than working. I'm actually in my house right now. I'm not in the studio because it has better internet connection. But when I'm in the studio, I'm a lot messier, and that's really more my style. But today, I'm having to keep myself somewhat contained. Okay, we got into number 6 yet? How you doing, Cecilia?
I thought you said we were starting the eye disc thing, so I just started doing that. The only
Oh, okay.
paper I don't have cut out is the fluffy part, which apparently just turns into my background. So you can't
Wow,
see
that's
it.
impressive. Okay, all right, good. So I want to walk you through the eye disc thing. Okay, so when you got your pattern, your rectangle pattern cut out, and you have your paper, and just like we did with the feather, you want to be working on the back side. My paper is the same on both sides, so it doesn't really matter. Tuesday I had a coffee stain on one side, so that was my back side, but this one, it's either way. And then also when you're doing these cutouts, you're going to be doing them kind of, you're going to be cutting out on your good paper. You want to conserve your paper as much as possible. So you want to have it be, actually, I think I'm going to use this paper. It's a little lighter weight. You want to have your paper, you want to have your parts just like you would be if you were sewing, you want to conserve your paper as much as possible. So take your eye disc rectangle and put it on the good paper, and then just cut that out.
When you say good paper, Wendy, what are we talking about?
As opposed to the pattern. So,
Yes, but what kind of paper? Because I have like a variety of papers.
awesome.
So what do I choose for the?
I would pick one that is a medium weight, and you can use a different paper for, if you want, you could use a different paper for every piece of this. Some of my pieces have many different kinds of papers in them. So I would just pick this that I'm using is kind of probably a 90-pound cardstock. It feels about like a business card. So
Okay.
if you,
I have a 90 and a 138.
I would go with a 90.
Okay.
Yeah. And drawing paper, watercolor paper, any of the mixed media papers works really well. Let me see. Talk so I can see it. You have to talk.
Oh, it's a sketch paper, and it's 61 pounds. Sorry.
Okay, that might be a little bit light.
So what about the 138? It's
how does it?
mixed media.
Yeah, how does it feel to you? Does it feel like a business card, or does it feel flimsier or thicker?
About like a business card.
I'll bet you that'll work perfect.
Okay.
I'd go with that. On some of them, I like slightly different shades of white and different, different weights and different sheens and things it makes it more interesting when it has that going on. But yeah, so when I refer to good paper, I'm just meaning as opposed to the pattern.
Okay.
But whatever paper you choose to use, and you can try it with this one, and if you don't like the way it looks, it's really easy to just do another one. It's just a little piece of paper. So once you've got the rectangle cut out, I think it's important to erase off any of the existing graphite so that you don't end up with that smearing around. And now you've got your your cutout of the rectangle, and you need to fold it in half lengthwise. And then you're going to fold that in half. Oh, this had something written on the back side of it. Okay, and then you're going to fold it in half again. This is all going to be covered up with your lightweight paper, so it doesn't matter that it's going to have these folds in it. And then you're going to fold one more time so that what you end up with looks like this. Make sense? Everybody got that? Okay, you too, Cecilia? All right, excellent. Okay, now you'll see that one side of that is mostly raw edges and the other side is folds. So you want the side that is folds. And the corner that is all folds here. So when it opens up like that, you want this corner right there. You're gonna go in and you're gonna cut a shape out of that. To make the eye holes. So I was calling it kind of a fingernail shape because they're kind of an oval. It's pretty thick. So you'll have to, I mean, in my case, I've got some thick paper there. So, so then what that's going to leave me with is this. Now, if you prefer to do this with a X-Acto knife, go for it. I just was trying to figure out a way to do this that we didn't require an X-Acto knife. So looks like Cecilia's got hers just fine. Everybody else got theirs all right?
Can you fold it again so I can see how you cut it?
Yeah. All right. So it's folded in the lengthways and then in half and then in half and then cutting right there.
Can I see the shape of the cut? Okay, got it.
Got it?
Yeah.
So that's what gave me his kind of Godzilla eyes, because I think they're kind of, you know, to me that's sort of, I imagine it's probably because snowy owls live in the Arctic and they have, they probably have to have more feathers around their eyes. They don't really look too sort of like a hoot owl, you know, like a great horned owl or something. They don't have those. Well, and the other thing to think about is the fact that they are, snowy owls are not nocturnal, they're diurnal. So they actually are out during the day. So they probably have to deal with a lot of glare off of the tundra and all that snow. These, if you think about it, those kind of look like those glasses that people that live in the Arctic wear, those, you know what I'm talking about? But anyway, so how you doing, Mavis? You look like you're getting a cut there. Did it turn into what you expected it to?
It's very thick, so I'm having to cut them a little bit separately because
Yep.
one eye is bigger than the other, kind of like mine. Like,
Absolutely. So, well, like I said, I would have much preferred just to have you guys use knives on this. That would be easier.
Okay. Right.
You want to
So
do it
this
again?
is not my forte.
Oh, you're doing all right. Let me see how it. And you know what? A lot of this is going to get covered up with other paper. So if you can just get the whole right. There you go. You got
Well,
it.
one is big and one is little. But
It doesn't matter. It won't matter because actually if it's, I think one of mine is bigger than the other too. I think that's kind of because the paper was sort of thick.
Yeah.
But
Okay, I'm ready to move.
it won't matter because it's going to be, like I said, it's going to have more stuff around it that's going to cover it up. So now that you have this, go back to your pattern. Uh-oh, did I freeze? It looks like I'm frozen. Let me do this again. Oh no. All right. Okay, that is like my worst nightmare with this thing. I have to try and get this camera to reconnect. So while I'm doing that, take your pattern piece and on the pattern piece, cut out the sunglasses shape on the outside of it, okay? The little thinner line that makes it look like a pair of sunglasses. Not the inside part, because you already got that. You just want that outside shape. And while you guys do that, I'm gonna try and get my camera back.
Can somebody show me the pattern piece she's talking about?
It's this one. Got it?
That's not the same as this, is it?
No, it's number 6.
I think it's page number 9 and it says iDiscs at the top.
Oh, it is 9. I had it upside down.
That's why I didn't get to page 9 yet. Okay. So what I cut out was not the right, okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the rectangle.
Oh, shoot. I did the wrong thing.
There you go. Now you're at it. Well, you take your time doing that because I cannot get this thing to connect. And I need to reconnect my camera here. Hopefully it will decide to cooperate. Come on. Spinning ball of death. Okay, well. I had this happen last time when I lost a connection. And it came right back. Oh. Okay. Connect and how you guys doing? Hey, Nancy. I'm having some technical difficulties.
That's what we call the spinning wheel of death.
Yes, the spinning wheel of death. That's it. That's just what it is. I'm going to try, let me check video here and see. Epoch Cam, I think it's just going to give you that. You don't want that. We don't want to look at that. The only other way I can make this work is if I reboot my computer, which I hate to do because I'll have to leave you for a moment to do that. Nancy, can I put you back over as host? And let's see, I'm going to make you the host. And I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm host.
All right.
Hi, everyone.
You can teach the class for a minute and I'll be right back.
Oh, yes, because I haven't been here, so sorry. I had other library business. Sorry about that,
That's okay.
folks. I know. How's everyone doing in this project? Where are you now? Oh, I know. Feel free to unmute.
We just cut out
Good.
the eye shape kind of thing.
Oh, cool. That's where you are. All right, so you've all been cutting?
Yep.
Cecilia? Cecilia, can you show me what you kind of just held up a minute ago?
This piece?
Okay, so once we've done this, then we take this pattern, we put it back on, and we cut out. Is that what we
she
did?
wants you to use a separate piece. So after you've cut this out of the pattern, she said to use a good piece of white paper. So you should have this for your good piece of white paper. You have that.
Yes.
And then this you cut out of the pattern itself.
Okay. So I'm cutting this pattern right here.
I just switched to Nancy, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it should be here's my unused piece, which it keeps disappearing. But this page right here, the piece at the top is what you should be cutting out. So in the end, you have the two separate pieces.
Oh, she's good now. Okay.
Okay, I hope that helps.
All right. Now, are you all taking classes 3 and 4?
I
Yes.
should be here as long as it just depends on my moving, but
I know. What's the story?
I was supposed to be moving in with my father for lack of anywhere else, and I talked to him yesterday, and he has not even made room for me.
Oh, so you're here for a little bit.
Possibly, yeah. I might just start looking for other places again. So I don't know if that'll work out, but
In
we'll see.
Buffalo, Cleveland, or here?
Anywhere.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like I would do better in Cleveland. I had more contacts there at this
I know.
point.
Did you contact my girlfriend, Marilyn?
If you sent me information, I should have, I think. But that's trying to remember.
Hi
Marilyn
guys, I'm
Simmons.
back.
Teacher's back. Okay,
And
I'm going to make you host.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me in right away too. I thought that would be kind of funny if you just let me sit there.
No, that would not be funny. That would be horrible.
That would be what I would do.
Okay. All right, you're in.
All
You're
right,
hostess.
excellent. Thank you for being there to
Sure, Cecilia taught the class.
All right, excellent. So we're doing the number 9 eye thing, right? And you guys have cut out, I assume you've cut out your little sunglasses shape. And then you just have to put that shape onto your good paper rectangle that has the 2 holes in it. So that you have, and now that I realize it's number 9 and not number 6, I'll have it go this way. And then take your pencil. You're going to want to, I mean, it's pretty symmetrical, so it doesn't really matter. But just as a matter of course, you typically turn your pattern over when you're tracing it. And then just trace that pattern onto your shape. Trace that shape onto your good paper, and then you can cut that out.
Oh.
So, okay. And then once you have that cut out, you'll have a shape with the interior
holes cut in it without having to use a knife. Now, just as a another option, if you wanted your bird's eyes to have a more round shape, and there's no reason why you couldn't just cut these shapes out, cut out some round shapes and stick on 2 separate eyes. But I liked doing it this way because when I made this bird, you can see there's the eyes that I made. Hang on a second, I gotta get back so I can see everybody's participating. There we go. When I made this, I thought it was kind of fun having that little bit of shape like that, because that sort of gives it a little bit more depth and dimension. So that's why I did it as one piece. But like I said, you're welcome to cut out separate eyes if you want to do it that way. So I'm gonna go in and remove my pencil lines. And you'll notice that this actually, I almost never have anything with folds in it like this. I mean, I'm not an origami artist at all, but in this case, it doesn't matter because it's gonna get some of the lightweight paper is gonna go on top of that, and it'll cover up any of your folds that would be in there that might look goofy. So, is everybody caught up? All right, Mavis, did you get the right pattern piece this time? Was it easier? How's it going, Mavis?
No, I'm doing fine. Just go ahead. I'll get there.
No, that's fine. I'm just I never know exactly how quickly to do this, so it helps to.
It's not you, and if I was in person, I'd be much more on it. But this is more difficult for me virtually. So just go, and I'll get there. I promise.
All right. Well, you let me know if there's anything in particular that, you guys just unmute yourselves and pop in and ask questions all you want, because, I mean, I want this to be as close to a in-person experience as we can do virtually. How's yours looking there, Cecilia? All right. That looks good.
Thank you.
And Carrie was nodding her head earlier, so I assume she's caught up.
Okay.
Good. That's the most complicated part that we have to do. Everything else is really straightforward. So just so you're aware, so it's gonna it'll get easier from here on out. At least I think. So the next ones to get cut out will be the body parts. Let's go ahead and go towards number 1. And I'm going to use a little bit sturdier paper for this one, because this is probably 130-pound paper, so it's definitely got a little bit more weight to it than the others. But these can also all be done with the exact same paper. It's not critical, but I do like the idea of having this back piece, because that's the piece that's going to be back here, and that is going to have it's going to be holding this. It's going to make the whole piece. It's going to be like the back of it. So you want it to have some heft, if you can.
Now,
And
if I already printed mine on cardstock, do I need to redo this, or should I just leave it like it is?
you printed the pattern part on cardstock?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just do that.
Okay.
You could not bother to cut it out, as long as you cut off all the printed lines.
Okay, yeah. All right.
That saves you a step. The only place where it's going to be an issue will be the fuzzy parts, where you're going to want to use a lighter weight paper. And again, this doesn't have to be real perfect, because we're going to go in and nick off the edges just like we did with the feather and give it a little bit more interesting edges than just these cutout things. And once you have that cutout, if you are using your traced pattern, then take off your edges, or take off your graphite around the pattern. And if you want to work ahead on this, one of the things that we're going to be doing, and I described this when we were making the feather, is putting nicks in. I'm gonna, because, oh no, it did it again.
Oh, it came back.
Oh, yay. Scared me. I don't want to have to do that again. That was nerve-wracking. So Cecilia, for you, since you weren't here last time, you can see these little nicks that I'm trying to find a good spot to show them to you. Right there, along that edge.
Okay.
Those I put in on to show you on the feather. I just do it like this. Just kind of nick with
Okay.
with this part of the scissors,
Okay.
to get kind of, and I like to sort of leave the little hanging bits on there. It's more organic edging, even though, and I showed this too, is that even though on a real feather they're pretty smooth, I still think that this kind of gives you that feathery feel to it. We're going to do that exact same technique on this. So as we get going, I'm going to go ahead and move on to cutting out these other parts. But if you get ahead of us because you're not having to trace and do all that, you can go ahead and start putting a little nick into your side. And it kind of depends on which direction it's faced, you know, like if you want it to go this way, or if you want to flip it over and have it go this way. But getting that sort of edge on it like that, I'll show it to you on the final piece. That's,
Oh, okay. I see what you're
and
doing.
and I just do that all the way around, because
Okay.
you don't want, with a cut paper sculpture, at least the way I do them, I don't like them to have
real cutout edges. They look kind of cartoony to me. To make it have essence of bird, I like to do that to it. So that's my way of doing it. Your mileage may vary. But so for the rest of us that didn't print out on cardstock, we can go ahead and you can use a different variety of paper or a different color of paper. I've got some of this paper is a little creamier that I'm going to use for part number. I want to do number 2 next. Or if you want, you can use the same one that you used before. We're going to figure out what parts are actually going to show, and those will be the parts that we're going to put texture into. Because this is going to be a layered piece, some of the pieces won't actually need any embellishment to them because they're going to be hiding behind the other parts. And this one is kind of peanut shaped, the one in the part number 2. And I did mark top on it because when I was putting it together initially, I kept getting it upside down. Which if you want to, on the back side of your piece, if it helps, you can put the part number and top or whatever, or you can do as I suggested with putting your pattern piece and your final piece actually on your pattern. To keep track of it. So if you have this one and you just keep that on there, then you'll know what's what. Okay. So the top of that goes up there. So that piece is going to go on there like that. How you doing, Carrie?
I'm doing well. I have a question. My bottom piece, my main piece, is a thicker cardstock, but the stuff I'm using on top is not as thick. But it's also a brighter a brighter white. Do you think that's gonna be good? Like, would I want a brighter white on top?
I think having the variety is going to be good. I happen to have a creamier white on top, but I don't think it's going to matter because once you start putting your other pieces on top, it's more really just about having a variety. In that case, I mean, you could do it all with the exact same, or you could, I think the variety actually makes the papers look more interesting. So try it this way. And if you don't like the way it looks, you can either make the piece with, you could do it with the plain copy machine paper if you want it to be white. But it doesn't, I don't think it's gonna matter. I would just go with it and see what happens. You might actually, depending on, you've got rice paper you're using, right? Also, for when we get to the fuzzy bits. When you get to that part, that actually might set off of your whiter, your brighter white nicely. So I think you're fine.
Okay, and then last question. This piece here, it's really bent up. Is that going to be okay? Because I'm going to cover it, right?
It's all going to be covered. Yeah, mine is bent up too. Look at this. It looks terrible. Oh, but see, it's terrible.
Right.
It won't matter.
Okay.
It's just to create the. It's just to create the openings, and we're going to have layers of fluffy stuff on top of it. So, But yeah, like I said,
Okay.
I'm not good at origami. So, okay. So are you, how many pieces have you got cut out? Are you on number 3 yet? 4. Oh, all right. I guess I better hurry up. So I still have number 3 to do. How you doing, Mavis? Which number are you on? 3. Okay. All right. Mavis and I will be together on number 3 then. Okay. So if you get them backwards, it's not going to be the end of the world because these things are sort of almost symmetrical. But if you look back onto your main drawing, the part that has all the parts listed on it, you can kind of tell which way they go. You know, it fits a little differently one way or the other because they're not totally symmetrical. So it's good to kind of keep track of which end is up and which side you're doing. So that's gonna be, yeah, so this goes this way. And this one goes this way. All right. Okay, and then parts 4 and 5 are the last of the plain white. And I'm going to go with the whiter white on that if I can find it. At least I think I am. There it is. You getting ahead of me, Mavis?
I'm not sure where you are.
I'm doing 4 and 5.
Okay. So I have 2 copies of 2 and 3 in case I don't like the many textured paper.
All right.
That's why I'm a little behind.
Well, that's a good idea. And you know, you might actually use those parts anyway. It may be something that if you have 2 different textures, you could tear one in half and use part of it on one part of the bird and part of it on another part. I love combining the different textures and having different sheens and stuff like that. It's I think it's part of what really makes this process interesting. And you'll find that some of the pieces will take your debossing and your shaping more easily than others. Some of the parts will not want to hold their shape as well. If you're using a machine-made paper, sometimes they're made in different plies. When I was first doing this, the person who taught this to me at the first workshop I went to, she suggested Fabriano paper, which
you
is
may have frozen. Oh, never mind. Sorry.
Okay, good. I'm back. Yeah, let me know. By all means, let me know, because I'm actually looking at what I'm doing, so I may not see see stuff coming in. So or not coming in. But anyway, she suggested Fabriano, which is a lovely paper, but I got to tell you, when I try and work with it, I love its bright whiteness. It's super duper white, but it's in multiple plies, so it will actually break up when I try and work with it and shape it. It kind of comes apart into two pieces, which does not make me happy.
Although I suppose that could make, like, if you were doing a fluffy piece, maybe if you started pulling it apart, that could be interesting. But then the question there is, will it stop or will it continue to fray on its own?
Or will it not do it when I want it to and only do it when I don't?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
With number 5, you say cut wide. Does that mean we want to cut it wider than your pattern?
That I just wanted to indicate that a lot of that isn't actually going to show. It's just a way to, oh no, come on back, come back, come back. All right. On that piece, only about this much of it's actually going to show. It needs to be tucked. This is parts to just glue behind. So, okay. It looks like we came back. Yay. Woo. Gotta love that country internet. But it's to show you that piece. This is number 6. It's gonna go behind there and also behind that part of the wing. So that's, I kind of marked that out so you would know that that part hides. But that's a good question. I also have a, I need to find a better overall one with all the numbers on it, because I actually took some parts out of this. And this happens to me a lot when I'm actually making a pattern. So I have a tendency to make more pieces than I actually need. I'll think that it's going to look better if it has more layers, and I'll be absolutely certain that it needs a certain part, and then when I actually get the parts on there, I'll discover that it gets too complicated, and so sometimes I remove that. And I think that was the case when I was originally doing this owl. I had these sort of inside pieces that I later decided to get rid of because they were unnecessary. So I don't have the piece that has all the numbers on it with me because I had the old one there. So, but okay, so are we pretty well cut out with all of the white pieces?
Yes.
Okay, Mavis?
Where is 6? Piece 6.
I'm looking.
Oh, 6 is the eye piece that we cut out in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so so what about 11, 12, 13, and 14? Has everybody done that already?
Well, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are the fluffy parts. We're going to wait on that.
Okay, so I am caught up.
All right.
I have 2 of everything. Just in
Wow.
case.
You are an overachiever.
No, I know that I tend to make mistakes, so.
Well, that's good. It's good to have an extra piece. And in my case, it's usually good to have an extra piece because that way I won't lose it. So we can go ahead, and now that we've got all the white parts cut out, I'm trying to decide whether to go ahead and just do this. We've got about 40 minutes left of class. I'm trying to decide whether to go ahead and just shape these so that you can have some fun with it. I think the shaping is the most fun part, but I want to also get the eyes and the beak and the talons in there too. So I'm trying to decide which is going to be the right thing to do in this period of time. Is everybody going to be able to make the class on Tuesday?
Yes.
I should be able to.
Okay, good. Well, then that way, if we get partway through it and we don't get it finished, then that will be okay, and we can just pick up on Tuesday wherever we leave off. I'm not going to worry about that so much then. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut out the miscellaneous not white parts, and I'm gonna have you guys finish up this eye thing so we can just get that whole thing done. So there's this page that says miscellaneous not white parts. The eye is in yellow paper. That's the only part that's in yellow, and you just have to cut out the pattern. And this is gonna be part of what really will make the expression on this bird. And a lot of it isn't even going to show. The parts that I've shaded on the pattern will probably be hidden, but you'll have this little bit of yellow peeking out to give him his owly look. And if you want to just go straight into cutting, taking that pattern piece and taking your yellow paper, I'm just using a plain yellow cardstock. It's nothing fancy. I got a whole bunch of these at craft store Michael's for very little. It's not a fancy paper. You know, the scrapbooking has made this so much easier to find. The craze for people doing scrapbooking has made finding acid-free archival papers way easier than it was in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also really like for eyes, I like using vellum because I like the see-through quality of it. That's what I used on this guy. His eyes are actually made of vellum. So there's lots of different options for how you want to do the eyes, but for this guy, the snowy owl, his eyes are kind of squinty. His Godzilla eyes. And that's going to give us the two parts of the eye, and they may or may not fit when we go to put this together. They may or may not fit under there. So that's what's going to happen with them, is they're going to be hiding under there. And you know how I said I wanted to have this kind of stick up a little bit? Mm-hmm. When it comes time to glue that together, we're going to have to adjust it so that the eyes end up in the right spot. So that's going to be sort of what we're aiming for with that. Can you guys see that okay?
I don't think mine's wide enough.
The yellow part?
Yeah, like it doesn't stretch to fill the hole that I made for the eyes.
Okay, so all you'll have to do is just cut it. I wouldn't cut it yet because you might lose the parts, but when it comes time to glue it together, you can just cut it in the middle and then adjust it to where it needs to be. I just try to keep as few loose little parts as possible. So then the black paper is what we'll need. So you can put your yellow part with your little sunglassy shape and keep those together. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about working with black paper. One of the things that I tried to do with this class was not have there be supplies that would be hard for people to find, things that could hopefully be somewhat around the house. I oftentimes, when I'm doing work on black paper, I will use a white pencil, but this is not a charcoal white pencil. I'm sure some of us have those, but not everybody is going to have one of those. So when it comes time to do the cutout on the black paper, one thing I like to do, and I'll show you this after we get our parts cut out, is take your foam core. This is a piece of old foam core, and then your black paper, and then you can actually trace around with your embossing tool, and then that will leave you a line that you can follow without having to actually mark on your paper. So that's when we get to that part, that's how I'm planning to do that. So you might want to have those things available to you, your embossing tool and the foam core. So in the meantime, I'm going to cut out my black parts, which are 8, 9, and 10. We'll kind of try and get some of these putsy little small parts taken care of today so that next week we'll just be working with the larger pieces. And some of these, if you cut them a little differently, it's not going to matter because you can always adjust your final piece later. You don't have to worry about that. It's gonna be in a your final good paper can be adjusted to fit the way it needs to. So it's not critical. And this piece that kind of looks like an anteater is the talons. And once we really start pinching on that and shaping it, you have to trust me, it will look like claws. Right now it does look like an anteater, but it's something that can be made to look pretty darn talon-like. And by the way, this piece, when it's done, is going to fit in an 8 by 10 frame, if you choose to frame it. That sort of dictated the size of how we were doing this. I tried to keep the smaller pieces to a minimum. I do work really small sometimes, but particularly for teaching this, I didn't think that was a good idea. So in this case, I think bigger is a little better. We're going to want to just worry about piece number 8, which is behind the eyes for right now. And number 9 and 10, you need to just set off to the side, someplace where they won't get lost. Put them in a tray or something. Okay. So is everybody ready to cut out on the black paper yet? Okay. So as I just demonstrated a moment ago, I'm going to take my black paper and I'm going to put my pattern that's supposed to be in black on there with the foam core underneath it. And then I'm going to press pretty firmly around my pattern of the back of this guy's eyes, which looks sort of like these are the black sunglasses, I guess. And it's got a little beaky part that mostly isn't gonna show, but it's there in case it does show. It'll look like the bottom beak. And I'm hoping, I think you guys might be able to see that. So you can see the difference between using a white pencil and using the embossing tool. It actually shows a little bit on the other side too. But that gives you a guide to go around without having to worry about marking on your, on your black paper. Because if you were going to do that with a pencil, it wouldn't show up very well. Okay, so there we've got our black piece. And I'm going to bring out the final here so you can see where this is going to go. So here's our guy, and he's going to have these parts will become the eye part, or around the eyes, I mean, but this will be behind it, and that'll be there to show and then it'll be sandwiched in with these yellow pieces to create the eyes. Like that. And it doesn't matter that the yellow part is going to show in the, it's hard to find the camera. It doesn't matter that that's going to show because the beak is going to go on top of that. How you guys doing? Excellent, look at that, perfect. I'm just looking at my thing. I guess we need to do the beak guy. We need to do that beak one too. I was thinking that went on top, but it goes in the middle of our sandwich. So you guys have probably already done that. But I'm gonna get my beak cut out here real quick. And then the beak is piece number, I wrote right on it, number 9.
Yeah, I just, talons. I have the beak.
Yeah, okay, good. The talons can wait. I was thinking the beak could too, but it's all part of the same unit. A lot of the times when we're constructing these, we want to kind of do them in sections like do the, you know, the eye section and then do the head section and then do a wing section or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily always get put together top to bottom. And the snowy owl does have a black beak, so there we go. So now our parts are going to be in order. It'll be the back part, which is just creating the, it also helps in the structure of it, but it's really just creating the back of the pupils of the eyes. And then the yellow bit there. And then the beak is gonna come down on top of that, like that. And then the outside that has the folds in it that are gonna get covered up with other stuff. Make sure I got that the right direction. You can try it either direction, see what works best for you. This is where it's handy to have a pair of tweezers or something to kind of mock it up, or to kind of move it around as you're mocking it up. Now I kind of like pulling the beak down in there because these wings that are out here on either side of the beak are also functioning sort of like part of the eye. But if you don't like them, you can cut them off. Here, I'll show you how it looked in here. You can kind of see right there and right there. It's actually, that's part of this beak section. So, Cecilia, are you thinking yours is going to fit, or are you going to have to cut it?
I already made a new piece just because I was concerned, and I figured if we hadn't gotten to it, it would be fine. But I did make a bigger piece that should work with the size of my eyes.
All right, excellent. So before we actually glue these parts together, I want to start putting some shape into it so that it doesn't. One thing about it is that they always look at this stage where you haven't put any of the shape into it. They always look a little cartoony. And sometimes I get kind of discouraged at this point because I'm thinking, oh, this just looks like kindergarten art. You know, it looks like it's not anything. But once you actually start putting the debossing on it, or the embossing, whichever way you go, once you start doing that, it really does start having a more interesting look to it. So I think we should just start from the back because that's how we're gonna assemble this. And the backing piece, which I'm gonna use, I guess I better use white foam core because we're working with dark stuff here. So the backing piece isn't really gonna show except for the tiny bits where the eyes are. So I don't think we need to put anything in particular. There doesn't need to be anything special done to that, but we'll just set that piece aside and then go straight into the yellow part, which is the colored part of the eye. And I'm gonna, I'm gonna use this feather as an example. So if you're pressing on this side of it, it's gonna go down, obviously, but if you flip it over, it would be up. So I'm going to have mine go down. This is debossing. And I'm just going to go, like, assuming that that center part right there is is where the black part of the eye is. I'm just gonna make some lines that stick out like that. And they're gonna go off the edge. It doesn't matter because it's gonna get covered. The edge will be covered up. But ultimately, I want it to look like that. just to give the eye a little bit more interest. And you can see what it would, see, I forgot to get rid of my pencil marks. But you can see what it looks like on the other side. If you like the way that looks better, you can do it the other way. And I actually, on a lot of the pieces that I do it both directions. So I might deboss it one direction and emboss it the other direction, and get that sort of typical eyeball thing going on. On this guy, it's probably more obvious. And you know, if you wanted to do different shapes, it's not really that realistic in terms of what these birds' eyes look like, but it does kind of sort of give you sort of the essence of eyeball. Okay, and then that's gonna go, that'll be the next layer. And then we're gonna have the beak, which is this sort of three-horned area, three-horned piece. And this one, I'd love to get that beak, make sure that you've got the right direction. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I think the wider one that goes to a narrower point is the actual beak part of it. So if you take that with and flip it over and put it on your foam core and take your embossing tool, whatever you're using for that, and kind of give it a little edge to it. Let's see if I can bring that up. This is why I didn't want to do a black bird. I would have loved to have done a crow, but this time, that's why I'm keeping these black pieces to a minimum. But if you get that edge done like that, then you can take the side of your embossing tool and kind of press that over. So you're just folding the edge, and it will make your beak have, oh boy, it's not gonna show up very well. There, kind of. So it gives it a little bit more shape. And then if you just take your fingers and give it a little tweak, you can let that bird have a little bit more shape to his beak. Or her beak. I guess it's a he because it's solid white. So that's how I ended up with that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with some of these parts and just thought, oh gosh, this isn't going anywhere. When I was working on that other owl, I thought it looked like a cat. But you know, have patience with it, because sort of the more you keep adding paper onto it, or in some cases deciding maybe just get rid of a piece of it or something, it really can, it comes together. It's just like a painting or something, you know. At some point I was hate the way the painting looks, and then it's like, oh, now it's starting to look more like something. It just takes time. So then that part of the beak is going to go on top of the yellow parts, and then we're going to put this part on top. So has everybody got all those parts the way they like them? All right. Now take this piece, and this piece, although our folds won't show, the edge of it is going to show, and also around the outside of it is going to show. So I'm going to go back to my black foam core so you can hopefully see this better. And the first thing I want to do is kind of tidy up the edge of these where I cut through. It's particularly rough because I was using a pretty thick paper. But what I want to do is take the embossment tool and go around that edge really close to the circle on both sides. Shouldn't say circle, it's an oval. And then you'll see what that looks like. You can decide which way you want it to go. I kind of like it sticking out. It looks like the membrane that's around an eye. And then just take take that side of your tool, whatever you're using as an embossment tool, and kind of press that down. So you can see why it doesn't really matter if it's not perfect when you cut it out, because you're going to be putting some nicer edges on it, and it's going to get that fuzzy white paper on there too. So it looks a little better now. Everybody get that okay? All right, I got 3 head nods. Okay, now get your scissors out, and remember how I told you about nicking the edge on the feather? So we're gonna do something like that around the edge, because this edge will show a little bit, or it might. Even if it's just maybe gonna show, I like to get rid of that hard edge, because it's much harder to trim off the hard edge once it's already glued up. And actually, we may get this part done, which would be awesome, because that would give it time to dry before we start working on the rest of the bird. And I usually flip it over and go the other direction at some point, you know, kind of figuring out which side has which direction those nicks need to go in there. Okay, so I've got the nicky edges done, and looks like you guys are still working on them. I'm gonna go grab my glue stick that fell on the floor a second ago. Okay, because we're gonna need that. You know, another way to do that, if you wanted to, would be to use the tip of the scissors to make little snips in there. But I think that tends to look not as good as using the base of the scissors. So have you guys made it all the way around yet? Looks pretty close. All right. How you doing, Mavis? You still awake?
Yeah, I may redo some of this. My battery is getting low because this is a video.
Ah,
So
yeah. I'll bet.
I may have to cut out before
Okay, well, we've only
too
got
long.
10 minutes left of class, so.
Okay, I'm down to 40 something percent, so.
Oh, I bet you'll be fine.
Okay, good.
So once you have the eye ring nicked all around the outside. Then I want to fold it again in half this time, right down the middle. And the reason why I want to do that, I'm going to show you on the, I cut these little pieces in here, and I thought that looked really nice, getting that little bit of, because you know how their hair, their feathers kind of meet in the center. So to get that look, I just did some really little cuts, real super close together and not very far in, because remember, it's going to go twice as far. And you don't want to make it so that this turns into two pieces, but just to give it a little bit of, a little sense of those being feathers meeting. And we're going to be moving this like this to make it even more so that way. Okay. Does that make sense? All right, good. Does everybody have pins with them? Pins would be super helpful for this next step, because these little parts are kind of hard to make stay put. So I'm going to be using my foam core, and I'm going to put my black piece in there. I'm going to grab a couple of pins to just have it ready. And then have a something like a scrap piece of paper or whatever to use with the glue stick. These parts, this actually would be just fine to do with tacky glue or another white glue if you wanted to do that. But I find when I'm working with small parts, and particularly if I'm working with vellum or working with any of the see-through papers, the rice paper and that, I prefer using glue stick for that. And sometimes I, like this one is a extra strength one that is a good one for really holding. It's actually made for putting on like embellishments and things, so it's got a lot of stick to it. So I'm going to take my black part and I'm going to put my yellow part in here and hope that it decides it's going to be in the right spot. I'm going to check it with this to see, yep, it's going to work. And then I'm going to put his beak part. I'm going to kind of squish those other corners of the beak. I left them flat so that I could keep track of which was the actual beak and which was these other parts. I would say give those a little bit of a tweak so that they're going to have a little bit of depth to them. And then I did mine backwards, so my other beak is going to be weird, but maybe that's okay. It might be just fine. Okay, and then glue the beak part on top of the other part of the beak. And that'll kind of flatten the top part, but because you've got a little bit of shape in there, you can kind of see that the edges of that don't look just like flat, like they were flat. And I'm not really digging the fact that I went backwards on that beak, so I'm going to snip off some of the underneath beak so that it doesn't look like he's got a deformity or something. Okay. I don't want to get too far ahead of you on this part, because once I've got them glued up, I can't unglue. So you guys give me the high sign when you've got your beak glued on there. All right, so Carrie's caught up. Now, when I did the, I'll just talk while you guys are finishing up. When I did the eyes on this one, I did the beak pretty much the same way, but I did the eyes as separate pieces, and then I used a paper punch in the middle, because if it's a pupil, I really like it to be, in this case, really round. So I wanted it to have that look to it. So I used a paper punch. That's pretty much the only time I ever punch anything out. There are a lot of different kinds of ways to do cut paper with crickets and things like that, which is great. It's wonderful for people to be able to use those. I try to not do anything mechanical, but I do make an exception with the hole punch, because sometimes you just got to have a perfect circle, and I can't cut a perfect circle. Make sure my guy's gonna fit here. So one thing that you can do once you have the yellow part on there, on the black part, is you can take your embossing tool and mark out on the front side where those pupils are going to be, so that when you flip it over, you'll see the mark. And then in those spots, you can kind of press down in, and that'll make that black paper on the back stick out a little bit. And I really like doing that because it gives them a little bit more dimension than just being a flat black piece. But that part's kind of optional. How you doing, Cecilia? Okay, good. I'm going to go ahead, because we're getting close to time. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the rest of this, and then you guys can just finish this part on your own if we run out of time. But I want to take that, the top piece, which is the part that's all folded up, and that is going to get put on top of the other parts, and it's only going to be glued on the two ends, this end, the left and the right ends. You're going to let that front part of it kind of fold up a little bit to give it a little bit more dimension, like that. Okay, so I like doing, if it's going to kind of have a mind of its own and want to do something different, I like using pins. And it's nice and easy to do that on this particular one, because like I said, these parts aren't going to really show that you're going to have other stuff on top of it. So you can glue it and then pin it down. You don't want to put a pinhole in the middle of something that you want to have be pristine. And mine's got a little bit of that black edge showing, which I kind of don't mind. So I'm going to pin it down like that. And then the center part of it isn't pinned down, it actually sticks up. So I'll show you a little closer what I got going there. And you can actually change the expression quite a bit just by how you do that. Before it dries, I'm going to flip it over the other way and see if it fits better that way or it looks better that way. Yeah, I actually like it better that way. There, I think my guy looks better that way. Everybody's is going to look different, but that has that's the right look there. And you can kind of wiggle it around and get it how you want it and then let the glue dry. How you doing, Cecilia? Have you got that part done yet? You have. Here, I'm going to put you in the spotlight. Then I'll be able to see you. You can unmute if you want.
Sorry, I could talk to you.
There we go.
But yeah, it's done.
Yeah, excellent.
Mine just says a lazy eye.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought with this one. I thought he's kind of giving the side eye thing, which I thought was kind of funny. But I think this one's going to have maybe a little different look to him. Maybe he's kind of mine's a little bit wall-eyed, maybe. But you know, once you get the fluffy parts on there and they kind of cover up the part of it, it won't look quite so goofy.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I sometimes make things more complicated than I need to. We could have just cut out a couple of circles and hole punched in the middle and it would have been way easier, but. And you're welcome to do that if you like. What do you think, Mavis? How's it going, Mavis? I can't hear you. You're going to have to unmute yourself. There you go.
I'm going to redo this, and this on my own because I had to unglue and that made a mess. So anyway.
Are you using glue stick?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. That's good. I know Ina had an issue with working with just plain.
But the black that I'm using is just a very fine, but I may use a different weight or I don't know yet. I'm going to play with it.
Well, you're a collage artist, so I'm guessing that you have plenty of paper to play with.
This is magazine black. See on the other side? It's
perfect.
We'll see. I don't know.
Well,
I have to Tuesday.
That's right. And it doesn't have to be perfect because a lot of what's going to happen with this is it's going to be, a lot of that part of it is going to be covered up with some real fuzzy, I don't know how well you can see the fuzz in that, but it kind of creates a more feathery kind of look to it. Now I did put some lines in. I was just looking at that. I did put some embossment lines around this on those parts, which I didn't do this time. You know, if you want to do that, here, I'll switch back over to this other camera for just a second, then we're going to have to go. But if you did want to have some lines in like this, I remember now why I did it, because I was worried that the fold lines were going to show. So you can certainly put a few of those in there to get that kind of almost like rays coming out. So, but I do think that, you know, if we put lots of fuzzy papers around his eyes, that it's not going to be too critical. So, okay.
Oh,
Thank
Another
you.
great
right.
class, Wendy. This
Yeah,
really
thank
is
you so much.
fun.
Yeah, thank you. This has been really fun. I was much more relaxed today.
First class is always intense.
Yeah, but well, I'm glad that if the camera was going to poop out on me, it pooped out on the. Now, did you record the rest of this? Were you recording the whole time, Nancy?
Yes, ma'am. I just stopped. It's being converted to an MP4 when the meeting ends.
All right, excellent.
So, yep. I don't know when I don't know if he's putting up all 4. I think I'm supposed to send him a reminder.
Okay, I was supposed to
You
remind
put
him to
on,
send
which
this to Ina
class
too.
did you need?
This is the one that we need to send to Ina.
That's what it was. Okay, so this class. Okay, I'm going to send him a reminder right now.
Awesome.
And did you get my
Thank
email
you.
about the invoice?
Yes, I'll take care of that.
It can just be an email form. So thanks everyone for coming to
Thank
another
you.